Sure. So, hello everybody. I'm Matt, obviously. So I'm an ESL teacher. I've been teaching English to people from all around the world, probably for about 13, 14 years now, something like that. I don't know. It all goes together. And at the moment, I focus. My niche that I work with is people in football. I think for a lot of your audience, that will be soccer, not football, not like American football or something. Soccer, and in fact, I'm from Australia originally, and I always called it soccer, but I think when you're working with people in the niche, you should call it what they call it, which is football. So that's my niche now. I work with mostly with coaches, but other people like scouts and analysts in it. And I've been doing that for almost 3 years now. I think it's and I think in October it'll be 3 years since I took your 21-day challenge. So yeah, that's what I'm up to at the moment. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So Matt, when did you join the 21 challenge again?
I believe it was October, maybe September, October, roughly 2021.
2021. Wow.
Yeah.
It's been almost 3 years now, right? 3 years. Good.
Yeah.
And you said you before that you have been teaching already, right?
Yeah, I've been teaching English for about 10 years, roughly. Again, I got all the years run together. About 10 years, mostly in the UK and Australia.
Okay.
But I now live in France, and I was teaching in France when the pandemic hit, and that's where I was at the time.
Gotcha. So were you mostly teaching like in a classroom setting or online?
So I've always taught in classrooms. I remember years and years ago, I tried doing some private work online a little bit, but I didn't like it at the time. And I was teaching in classrooms, but the company I was working for when the pandemic started, they're a big company, big, huge international company, Wall Street English. Some of you might know them. They were sort of ready to go online. It was something they were planning on doing anyway, and then the pandemic hit, and they just put everything online. So I was working online for about a year and a half, probably, before I did the challenge.
Yeah. Well, what was the reason that you joined the challenge and tried to do something yourself?
Well, for one thing, the company I worked for, Wall Street English, again, I don't want to say it's a bad company, but I did not enjoy my time working for them. Their particular style of teaching and everything, I didn't like it. And I don't know, I was doing it for a while, and just, I don't know, I think not long before, this sounds like unrelated, if not long before I actually got married as well. And I don't know, something just got to me. I was a little bit like, am I just going to be doing this for the rest of my life then? Like, this is it now? And and then when the pandemic hit and everything went online, I remember sort of thinking to myself, well, now if everything's online, I'm using my own computer and my own things and on my own technology, I don't really need the school anymore. I can do it by myself and maybe make a bit more money and everything. And I think I quit my job, and I was trying to get things going for myself for about maybe like 6 months. And it wasn't going very well. Wasn't going great at all. I was using all the online things like, what's it called? iTalki and stuff like that.
Platforms,
which I'm sure some people know. And I mean, I was doing okay. I was making a bit of money, but not really doing well. And then I came across, I think, one of your ebooks from years ago. I don't know if you still use the same ebook. Came across your ebook, and I remember you just explained in the ebook the idea of like niche teaching. And I can't even remember details of it, but I do remember thinking you'd written things in the book that only someone who knew like what teachers go through would understand. And it made me think like, I think he's really like legitimate. Like, he knows what he's talking about. like you know, like either you'd done it yourself or you'd worked with people who knew. But I just remember thinking like there's things in there that only teachers would know, and yeah. So then I
That's good.
did the
That's good.
21-day challenge, and
That's
yeah.
good. That's good. Love it. Love it. I guess the marriage and the pandemic were the reasons. Okay.
Yeah. Just I guess just
That's,
life and getting
yeah,
older and life
yeah,
changing, and yeah.
yeah. That's enough to know. That's great. All right, thanks for sharing that. And I think that really resonates with a lot of teachers, because I know a lot of teachers moved online due to pandemic, and then they started with a platform because that's the easiest place to start. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Preply or italki, all these companies, and then they realized, okay, if I'm already doing it, so why don't I just give myself a try, just see if I can get my own students, right? And
Yeah.
probably I can charge more because these platforms do take a cut. And then why don't I just do it myself, do my marketing myself? And then you came across the book. I think what make the book really popular was because it kind of introduced this
Mm-hmm.
niche teaching concept, which makes a lot of sense, right? If you're a general teacher, you're just a same teacher as so many thousand teachers out there, then how can you get students? How can you charge higher rates? The only way for you to get kind of differentiated from other teachers will be having a niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's move into this niche teaching topic, because I guess a lot of teachers are gonna be very curious about how you define your niche, because this is not very common niche, to be honest.
No.
Football, football. I mean, we worked with over 5,000 teachers. Even just the 21 challenge, we graduated more than 4,000 teachers. I think maybe a handful of teachers try this niche are football professionals. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess my first question, which is the kind of a question probably teachers want to ask, is as well is how did you decide to go with this niche? So if you can
Yes.
share it.
I would say something about it just quickly to be clear, because a few people have said to me something along the lines of, "Oh, it's really great that you've mixed your work and your passion, teaching and football." And to be clear about something, football's not my passion. I'm a very casual fan of football or soccer, so it doesn't, your niche doesn't need to be some huge passion of yours. The way I chose it was, I remember very early in the 21-day challenge, one of the first videos, you say something along the lines of, just pick something based on industry or job title and don't think about it too much. Just get started. And then you listed some examples of industries, and you said sport, and in that moment I just said football. I watch football. Why not football? And yeah, so I picked it. I picked it like that. I think you've said that a few people had tried this niche before and not really worked for them. I think something that maybe I did a bit differently was, a lot of people went for players. A lot of people think,
Yeah.
oh, players need this. Like I said earlier, my focus has been more like coaches particularly, and analysts and people who work more behind the scenes. And my thinking for that was that if you're a player, if you're good enough, they don't people don't care about your language skills. That the teams will find a way to get you in. But if you're someone like a coach who relies on communication, it's and you analysts, people behind the scenes, they don't really get famous. They need it a lot more, I think. So I think that's something to consider for anyone out there thinking about their niche. Like, try to think as like pragmatically as you can about
Yeah.
who actually needs it.
Yeah, yeah, you were right about it. I remember I was trying to give you a heads up, because I was seeing teacher tried it. It didn't work very well, and you were right. They were targeting players. I think most of them, and you shifted to coaches, which is a very smart move. I guess this is kind of a new niche, right? And I've seen this happening all the time when teachers start with a niche they're not very familiar with, kind of all based on their understanding, they're trying it. There are so many doubts, like
Mhm.
doubts, concerns, questions, would it work, would it not work? I guess you did great, because even with my heads up, like warning, you still continue with it. I guess, did you did you did you have these doubts? And if you had, how did you overcome the doubts? Like, how did you work around with that?
I remember constantly asking. I probably asked you once early on, and maybe a few other teachers who would do it. Like how long should I go for a niche before I should just give up on it? And there's no solid answer to that. You've got to sort of figure it out yourself, I guess. I think for me, like I said, it was a very pragmatic choice. I think I could just tell that like this is a good niche, right? It was going to be difficult to crack. I think there's a few reasons for that, but I knew, football is the world's most popular sport. It's extremely popular. There is a lot of money in it, and if you ever watch press conferences or something like that with coaches and players and other people in it, you'll see that they have a lot of translators working, and it's a big international industry. And I just knew it was just one of these things. I just, if I can just sort of get past the initial hurdles, I knew it would be a good niche. I knew it would go well. But it was very difficult early days. I think it took me a lot longer than some others who pick maybe we'll say more traditional niches, more like business English style niches. But yeah, I would say to anyone, if you can see like practically in your mind why it would be a good niche, you might just have to struggle through those early pitfalls. Just keep pushing.
Yeah.
If it makes sense, just keep going for it.
Yeah. I guess do some research, right? That helps. Just saying, oh, there is a demand and people are asking for it. I think that really assures you, like, yes, they could work because I'm seeing it, right? So do some research. That definitely helps. So my other question will be, in your case, right? How long did it take until the point you feel like, yeah, I'm actually on it. I feel like it could work. Did you remember how long?
It took me, I would say it was fairly early that I knew, like, yes, this can work. Like only a few months before I felt like, yes, this can work. It took me maybe 3 or 4 months to get my first student. And at that time I had like a 5-lesson program that I did. And, it was very, very cheap. I charged, I think, about 40 euros an hour. So I made about 200 euros. That's a little more than $200. And I think I saw sort of early on, like there is a demand, people want it, but I knew that I wasn't like getting the messages out correctly or something. It probably took about a year before I felt like, okay, I'm definitely on the right path.
Gotcha.
And then it was probably another year after that, about 2 years. So about 2 years to the day that I did the 21-day challenge, that I would say things have actually been going well enough that I can say, all right, this is like my main work now. This is what I do. And it's, the ball is rolling. So I would say like 2 years before I felt really comfortable with it.
Okay. That's great. I mean, a couple of great milestones. Number one, so it took you 3-4 months to get your first student, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even after you get your first students, you still don't feel like, they say, right? It's kind of
no, not at all.
Yeah, certain about the needs.
It kind of even signaled to me, like doing the lessons with him. I remember, like, oh, I'm so far off, like where I need to be, like giving them what they need. Like,
okay, and then it took you 1 year to feel like, oh, this is a niche. I can see it works, and then it took you 2 years to feel comfortable. Okay, this is my focus, and things are really picking up, right? So that's one of the milestones. That's good.
I'd say it was about that, roughly.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest with you, I probably, for some teachers, they could have quit a few times already in 2 years. So so I guess what's you did differently that you didn't quit? 2 years is a long time, to feel like, oh, this is my main thing now. I can really rely on this business. After 2 years, even like after a few months to get one student, after 1 year, you're certain this is the niche. What you did differently, or what you did that allow you to like not quit and
Yeah.
really continue?
Well, I think so. So just to make sure it's clear, like after 1 year or so, I was sort of getting enough sort of work
Okay.
and students in that it was kind of signaling that I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that I did sort of have fairly regular
Okay.
students
Gotcha.
coming in was something that said to me, all right, you're doing, you're on the right path, just need to keep going. And it definitely helps. My wife is very, very supportive. If you've got someone in your life supportive, then that makes things a lot easier. But I think it, like, again, it maybe just a bit, maybe a bit of foolish pride as well. I didn't want to do all that work and then I got to start again, or admit defeat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could give maybe a bit more of like a real practical do this, do this, do this. But I think the main thing was just I knew the niche made sense. Again, like like I said, that I knew the demand was out there. I knew that it was a good idea, and I think as well, I knew that the industry, football, I think, is a very closed industry. People in football, they sort of know their own, and they don't really, they think of you as an outsider, someone who just sort of comes along and says, hey, I'll teach you English for football. Like, I'm not a coach or anything like that, but they I think there is a little bit of that, and I knew that would take a while to crack through. But I would just say, yeah, if you have a niche you think makes sense, just, I don't know, a bit of faith, a bit of belief.
Yeah. So I think that's the second time, at least second time you mentioned, you feel like the niche makes sense. I guess one thing I want to comment on. I like what you said, because a lot of teachers only looking at the money they make, how much money they make, or how many students they get to decide whether or not they should continue with the niche. I think the part I like what you said is that you separate this. Like, the niche makes sense does not mean I'm getting students, I'm getting the results I want, but the niche makes sense, and it's different. I guess the parameters or indicators or signals that you separate it to, the niche makes sense from a market perspective. Whether or not I'm getting students, that probably it's because of my skill set, right? So I think these two things, when you separate them, you become more, just, I think, more fact-based. You can make decisions that way. I guess maybe one more question about this is, what did you do to, so that you felt that this niche makes sense? Did you do anything like a market research? Did you talk to anyone? So what you've done helped you feel like this niche actually makes sense? I think that's kind of one of the critical reasons that you didn't give up, right? So what did you do that can help others to?
So the vast majority of students I've found they've been through LinkedIn. That's where I get most people that I've worked with privately or in groups. And I would say something that is not fun to do, whether it's making posts or speaking to people on there or whatever. I probably made quite a fool of myself quite a lot. I asked dumb questions of people, whether it was in like the sales calls or just speaking to people, online. I just made posts about things like, hey, maybe this is something they want to know about. I made terrible posts. Anyone who goes on LinkedIn can look through the history of my posts 3 years ago. Terrible posts, and it just, I know, I just kept going like that. And every time I either had a sales call, I would ask lots of questions to get as much information as I could, recorded them all, would watch them back and make notes. What things did they say to me? And just like this, I think it was mostly working directly with people in the niche, just answering their questions online if they sent me something, making it very clear, like, this is what I do, I can help you with this. As bad as the messaging was, like, it connects with a few people, it clicks with a few people, they tell you their experiences, and you get a little nugget of information. Okay, they have this problem, I can remember that and make a post about it or something.
Gotcha.
So I think really just directly engaging with the niche.
Yeah, directly engaging with the niche, directly getting feedback from them, and asking stupid questions,
Ask
all
dumb
that
questions.
dumb questions, and then the feedback, the answers you get kind of reassure you there's definitely a need and there's a market. The niche makes sense, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
Even though you didn't get a student until 3-4 months after that, but the information, the feedback, the answers you get from this market research, right, kind of set you up for more.
Exactly. You just keep gathering the information.
Good.
I see there's a question in the chat. Just no, I went straight for coaches, Jennifer. I pretty much went straight for coaches. I think I knew that players. I think I knew from the beginning players didn't make sense. Like I said, players don't need it as much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Some market research there. That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Matt. And everyone, if you have more questions about niche teaching, how Matt decided on his niche, and if you have any questions related to niche teaching, you can ask now. We can pause for like maybe 2 minutes to answer some questions about niche teaching before we move on to LinkedIn. That's another part we want to talk about today. All right. So far, I really enjoyed the conversation because I've learned a lot. Because it really troubles me when I see teachers just giving up on niches after niches, and I'm trying to find a way to kind of encourage them, right? I think what I learned from you so far, Matt, is first, really separate these signals. Not getting students is not the only signal you should look at to decide if you want to continue with your niche or not. Mm-hmm. Looking at the needs, the market, the feedback, the answers you're getting, right? So that helps you to continue, right? So there's one. So if you have questions about LinkedIn, we'll ask later, okay? We'll answer them later, okay? If you have questions about LinkedIn, Jane, Paul, we're gonna answer that later. So anything about niche teaching, if you have any questions, want to ask me or Matt before we move on to LinkedIn. And Vignes said, I was one of those who quit. That's the part where I said, a lot of people probably have quit a few times already in a year or 2 years. That happens a lot. I think that uncertainty is kind of understandable. Like you are defining a niche, decide a niche. I guess maybe one question I can ask you again as well is, we also seeing people having this imposter syndrome, like because they position themselves as a niche teacher, right? And they feel like they need to know a lot about this niche. And in your case, right, you started with these coaches probably don't know anything about the coaches. Right? How did you overcome the imposter syndrome when you try to pretend that you know them or you want to be the expert in helping them?
I think just not knowing the concept of imposter syndrome is something useful. And because if someone had never told you the idea of imposter syndrome and you had it and you thought, oh, why would I be able to do this? I think it would be very easy to just give in to that sort of impulse. For me, it was kind of a thing of I just tried to like rephrase the question, like instead of like why should I do this or why would people listen to me, I just I made it a negative. Why wouldn't they listen to me? There's no particular reason that I can't teach coaches English that they need. I always have been I've tried to be very clear with the niche. I'm not a football expert. I'm not a strategic expert. I'm not a tactical expert. I'm an English teaching expert. I can show you how to improve in that area. And then I just knew as long as I can sort of learn enough about their job to keep up with them. It's not a problem. You don't need to be an expert in whatever you're teaching English about. You only really need to have, I think, a basic understanding, maybe a little more than a basic. Maybe we'll say an intermediate understanding, which can take a bit of time. I actually did some courses online for like football analysis and stuff, and I read books on coaching and these sorts of things just to get an idea. But again, like I have not become an expert. If you put me on a football pitch with some players and told me to run a training, it would be terrible. They would all become worse players instantly. And I think that's a big thing. You try to learn about it, but you don't need to be an expert in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna answer one more question before we move on to LinkedIn. Okay, so how did you decide on the countries you decided to focus on?
It's actually, I think, an interesting question, because originally I focused mostly on Europe. Obviously, Europe is should we say, the home of football, and I also thought that's where most of it's the time zone that I'm on, and it's where most of the money is. There is quite a bit in Asia and South America as well, but a lot less. So again, like a practical choice there, like time zone and money, that's sort of where it is. Maybe I could say a bit of a mistake I made is I focused on the big countries that have lower levels of English, like France, Italy, and Spain, because I thought their levels of English compared to countries like, say, Germany or Austria is a lot lower, so they need it more. Something I've actually found in the last year or so is the Germans and the Austrians are much more eager to improve. I think there's maybe a cultural thing. Like, they're very like, I want to improve, I want to be better, and I sort of accidentally started working with them a lot more, and now a lot of my messaging is aimed at those countries. So actually, that was a bit of a mistake I made, focusing on the wrong countries.
No, I guess you learn, right? You learn from the observations you make, and that, I think that tip gonna apply to many teachers. Is if you are teaching English, so a lot of teachers make assumptions on their level, and they feel like if their level is lower, they're gonna need more. But that actually against what I said very, very early on. So I feel like advanced learners, advanced speakers actually are more committed and more kind of willing to invest and learn to become even more advanced. So something for you guys to think about. If you teach English, right? All right. So let's move on to the next part. Okay, LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is the place, right? You get students, I guess.
Yeah.
So Matt, can you maybe tell us your experience with LinkedIn before the challenge, after the challenge, how it's been, and share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. Before the challenge, I had a LinkedIn account, and I have no idea why I had a LinkedIn account. I have no idea when I created it. I didn't even know I had it until I think I tried to create an account with my email, and it said, "Oh, you've got an account." So yeah, I knew nothing about LinkedIn. Since doing the challenge, and obviously up to today, like I said, that's where the vast majority of my students come from, is from LinkedIn. I get the occasional one from Instagram or something like that, but not often, or a referral. I think very similar to my niche, my sort of experience with it is it's been quite slow. It's been a learning process. Like I said before, I used to make a lot of very bad posts. I didn't really know what I was doing. There's a lot of LinkedIn gurus out there who swear, do these 4 things every day, and we'll have, 1 million clients a month. They've always got a claim. I tried quite a lot of their tips and got very little sort of extra engagement or extra results. But yeah, I think really for me, just the practice on it and the consistency on it has gotten me to a pretty good point with it.
Okay. Yeah. So far, I think you're close to 10,000 connections, right? On
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
10,000's on there, just about, maybe a bit under. I can't remember exactly
Yeah,
off the
yeah, yeah.
top of my head.
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I guess you are also on Instagram because I remember we started Instagram a little bit. So I guess you use Facebook yourself as well. So what for teachers? I think there are teachers who are not familiar with LinkedIn. Probably they have accounts they don't even know, right?
Mhm.
So from like a marketing perspective, as a teacher who want to get students online, so what would you say about LinkedIn? Like, what's the pros and cons? Like, how you feel LinkedIn for teachers to use to get students?
So I think one of the big pros of LinkedIn is most people on LinkedIn are much more serious about their career and what they're doing on LinkedIn. It's much more serious. You know, if you're on Instagram, people will be on Instagram just wasting an hour, 2 hours of their life. You know, it's very easy to do. I'm guilty of it. But you'll get other people who are a lot more serious. And like I said earlier, I learned a lot about my niche just by asking questions. People on there, I think, are generally quite eager to chat and answer questions. I think you don't really get this so much on Facebook and Instagram because they're not professional environments, right? Like LinkedIn, they try to create a professional environment, and I think they do a pretty good job of that. So I think if you don't really know your niche very well, it's probably the best place to learn about your niche.
Mm,
Might depend. Some others, or maybe Instagram's better. I couldn't say for sure, but I think yeah, if it's something that is like a professional industry, I think LinkedIn's the best place to learn about your niche and get the information you need about them. Drawbacks, they have a lot of restrictions on LinkedIn in terms of like number of invites you can send. If you want to do premium, it's very expensive. I found I haven't needed it. I've used it a couple of times when they give you like the free premium for a month or two or something. I've found I don't really need it. Um, too often. I think you can do fine with the standard version. Um, I think it's maybe a little more difficult as well if you're thinking about like what to post, because Instagram and you can kind of just post any crap. Like not saying it'll do well, but like the goal on Instagram is sort of like to entertain, whereas like LinkedIn is kind of like educate or something. And I think it's kind of difficult to get that mix of like
yeah,
educate and entertain so that people will actually stop and read or
yeah,
look at what you've made.
yeah. It's
So
good.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. Actually, that you answered this question from Jean Paul about the premium version and the standard account.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can work with both. Either one of these, and there are workarounds. Even you are using standard accounts. Actually, Matt is using standard accounts as well with the standard account, meaning like the free version. Okay.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question, Jean Paul here. Okay. All right. So there are a couple of things I want to kind of elaborate a bit here with you, Matt. The number one, I agree with you. LinkedIn is a professional kind of network, and that's my feeling too. I know people get more likely get attacked by by others on other platforms, but on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, usually people are more friendly and professional, so kind of the environment is better. In a way, for teachers who market their businesses, right? So you don't want to get attacked and the haters all the time, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the one you mentioned already, and the other one, how do you feel about actually the people on LinkedIn? I feel like in my opinion, I feel like students on LinkedIn are more kind of serious about learning. I feel like there are a lot of people, a lot of teachers told me the same thing. They found students on LinkedIn are kind of more serious, more committed
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Oh,
learning.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of. I think that's part of what I meant before about
yeah,
like it's a professional environment and people are more serious exactly about their
yeah,
job. If you take the time to make a LinkedIn account and just present yourself professionally and everything, I think it just shows you're a little more serious.
Yeah.
And if you, even if you just open up the app of LinkedIn, you know that you're not just wasting time the way you would on Instagram. Like on Instagram, people just they throw their lives away onto Instagram sometimes. It's very easy with reels. But people on LinkedIn, you can't really do that on LinkedIn. It's not that entertaining. There's nothing that entertaining on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And the other thing I want to mention too is, so we talk about niche teaching. I feel niche teaching works really well with LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has very powerful ways of finding people like exactly from your niche. Let's say in your case, you can easily find football coaches, right, in many different ways, filters or like groups or other things you can do. So I think that actually benefits a lot for teachers who are doing niche teaching when they have very kind of targeted group of people they're looking for, right? Is that yeah. So you agree with me on that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's the best way to, like I said, target people. I've tried to use Instagram. You and I have talked about my sort of problems on there. Like one of the big problems I've had is obviously because I do football. Football is kind of like it's a big hobby for so many people. So if I post anything about football, I get loads of like 13, 14-year-old boys from across Europe liking and stuff. And I'm glad they like it, but it's they're not really who I'm trying to get to.
And the fact they're liking it mess up your algorithm on Instagram. Instagram gonna show your content to more people like them. I think that's the downside of the content driven platforms like Instagram, TikTok, right? Because you have to rely on the content to attract your audience, but with
LinkedIn,
so you can use the titles, the industry, the filters, and also other ways
to more specific on it.
More specific.
I did have a couple of reels and posts I made on Instagram that went viral, if you will. Like 200, 300,000 sort of impressions and thousands of likes and stuff like that. But it was not from people I needed it to be. Like again, it was people completely, I don't say completely outside the niche, because it was football fans, but it wasn't people working in football that I was trying to get to. So it's a bit more of a minefield in that sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you guys have more questions about LinkedIn, and feel free to drop in the chat and ask us. We're gonna spend a few more minutes on LinkedIn here, and just we don't know like the level of familiarity you guys have with LinkedIn, because I can see in the audience right now watching the live, there are teachers who've done training with us about LinkedIn. Probably there are teachers who never use LinkedIn and who don't even have an account, right? Feel free to ask questions. There's a question from Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Yeah, so there's a guide to get started on LinkedIn. Do you use videos, webinars, direct contact to answer queries? If you haven't, definitely sign up to the webinar we're doing this month, the LinkedIn webinar on our event homepage. We're going to talk a lot more about LinkedIn in the webinar. And I'm not sure if you've done the 21-day challenge before. If you haven't done that challenge, we have a very intensive training about LinkedIn. And that's where Matt learned about LinkedIn. So in the 21-day challenge, okay?
Yeah, I was going to say to that, I think 99% of what I know for making LinkedIn work came from James and his challenge and other bits and information from you guys. So.
And you get the other 1% from the gurus, right? LinkedIn gurus.
Yeah, little thing here and there, little tip there.
Right. Got that. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure I understand the second part. Do you use videos, webinars, or direct contact to answer queries? What does it? Do you know what it means, Matt?
I mean, I think maybe if you mean queries from people in my niche, like I would use direct contact. I get a lot of questions from people. Just maybe they want to ask the price of my course, or what especially early days, they'll be like, so what is it? I don't understand. You're a football English teacher. What does that mean? But yeah, mostly just direct contact like that. I used to make a lot of videos on there, posting videos, which I think is a good thing to do. It's good to get used to putting your face up online and everything. I don't really do that at the moment. It's like I said, the ball's kind of rolling for me now, so I don't think I really need to do that so often. But just yeah, I think if that answers the question, Barbara.
It's good, Barbara. Yeah. If there are more questions, let us know in the chat. Feel free to do that. We're gonna move on to the next part. And also I want to give you guys another reminder. So just like what I said to Barbara, and we are doing a 3-hour webinar about how to get students at over $100 an hour on LinkedIn. And by the way, so Matt, you are charging over $100 an hour, right? Just want to confirm.
Yeah. My rate at the moment to work privately is 120 euros an hour. So that's about $130, I think, US.
Okay. Yeah. I want to confirm that because, it just like, it just sounds so impossible to many people.
It sounds, even just saying it now, it sounds so stupid.
You have to say it out, say it loud, say it out, because we have to. I think that's what I want to tell people. That's why, I mean, personally, with the business, a lot of people just attack us just because we say that out loud. You can charge over $100 an hour, and if you post something like this, in some of the Facebook groups, like with ESL teachers, you're gonna get a lot of comments. Oh, no way, impossible. Bullshit, right? Whatever they say. Right? So I have to let you say it out because so just want to give more teachers a faith. Yes, you can earn what you're worth, right? It's just not just a theory. It's happening every single day for so many teachers, and you can do the same. So we want to show you how to do that on LinkedIn in this webinar. And if you click on register for free, and then you're gonna come here and just put your name down here, email, and you will receive the Zoom link to join the webinar at a time. So it's happening on August 29th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you can't join us live, when you register, we will get your email. We'll send you the recording as well. So I'm gonna send you the link in the chat, guys. If you haven't registered, please register, okay? Just learn more about LinkedIn, learn more about what other teachers do on LinkedIn that allow them to charge over $100 an hour, just teaching, right? Teaching English, teaching languages, teaching other things. So I'm going to show you one more time, and we're also going to talk about niche teaching as well in this webinar. All right. So just want to comment on that and share the link with you guys. If you haven't registered, please do that. Okay. David said this is so inspirational. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I want to host these interviews every single month, because we need to let more people see this, right? When the company is only paying $10, $5 an hour, and there's a way to make so much more, and right? So as a teacher, so.
No, it's definitely possible. I think I remember. I can say when I think the first ebook I saw of yours said that, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, ridiculous!" Like James, another like guru, like one of these LinkedIn gurus or something, and for whatever reason, I did read it, and like I said, I remember just reading things that I was like, you can only know that if like maybe he's legit, and yeah, look, it's worked for me, guys out there. Look, it's. James and his crew have completely changed my life in that regard. It's hard, you have to put in work, but it's definitely possible. 100%. I've done it, so go do it. Just go do it, guys.
Thank you, Matt, for that. So we have a few minutes left. I think we're gonna just and we have a couple more things. I don't want to spend time on that. I just want to maybe answer some questions. If you have any questions, any takeaways you want to share with us, feel free to put in the chat. Any questions about niche teaching? If you don't quite understand niche teaching yet, if you want to share your niche with us, let us comment on your niche. Feel free to do that. If you don't know how niche teaching works, feel free to put in the chat. I've already shared the ebook. I think Matt mentioned quite a few times in the chat. Let me share it one more time. The ebook, all right, it's been downloaded over 100,000 times in the past 4 years. I didn't change anything because it's so
Still the
great.
same book.
It's still same one. This ebook, I published a couple more ebooks after this one, but this is still the
This
most
is
popular
the
one.
original, yeah.
Yeah, the original one. I didn't change anything. So it's specifically for ESL teachers, but if you teach other things, it can kind of also be very helpful if you want to give it a read. All right. So this is the ebook. Let me share it one more time on LinkedIn. We do got quite a few people watching on LinkedIn as well. Gloria, I can see you on LinkedIn. Thanks for coming today. Yeah, so there's a one common Stanley. My niche is teaching pronunciation. All right, so I think that's a common misconception about defining a niche. So I don't think personally, right? There may be other people saying different things, but personally, a niche shouldn't be just a subject. This is your subject. You teach pronunciation, but this is not a niche. Niche should be related to the problems. Okay, why people need to learn pronunciation, right? So in Matt's case, right, his niche is not football coaches. His niche is football coaches who want to improve their English so that they can do something, right? So it's not a people, it's not a subject. It should focus on a problem, right? And we have a client. I did an interview with Meredith 2 months ago. So she also teaches pronunciation, but her niche is Spanish-speaking professionals who want to improve their pronunciation so they can succeed in their career, right? So there must be a reason for people to learn whatever they learn. And so this is not in my definition, this is not the best defined niche. Just want to give you some comments, Stanley, and read the ebook. Okay, I share the ebook, get a copy of the ebook. I actually have the formula you can follow to define your niche, and there's some examples as well. Stanley Park Wildlife. Wow, so cool name. Okay,
If I
so
could maybe just jump in on that as well, just yeah, because we've said like my niche is football English. That's not really quite accurate. My niche has always been like football coaches who need to improve their communication to get bigger and better positions around the world, right? So it's very defined like that.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Matt. There's one more here. Say, hey, Matt, what was a big turning point for your business when you went from side hustle to full-time income? That's a good question.
There was I don't think I could say like there was a particular moment when I did something that sort of changed everything. The moment came around about a year ago. Like I said, about 2 years into doing it. So yeah, about 2 years after doing the 21-day challenge. I don't think any particular big event took place. I just think the culmination of the work that I'd put in over time, the momentum that I'd built up and everything, it just sort of finally ticked over to that. So it was around about October, September last year that kind of happened for me. But I think it's really just about consistency,
Yeah, actually, we didn't talk about consistency. I think there's a big part of it too. And I talked to a teacher yesterday who joined the challenge even earlier than you, I think, and she's not getting any results, and that's why she's talking to me. And when I look at her LinkedIn, she only have 900 followers. That speaks to everything. It was like I don't even need to know what's going on. Just looking at for 4 years, and you only got 900 connections on LinkedIn. That already speaks for everything, right?
Haven't really done the work, I don't think.
Yeah. So and then I mean, if you say she's not doing any work, I wouldn't say that's fair because she's been like taking a lot of training. I guess she's just not focused on doing the right thing, the fundamental things, the habits consistently. in this case, right, you need to grow your audience, right? I don't think you're gonna get the consistent results without a certain kind of amount of people in your audience, and sending connection requests, getting connected, getting followers, getting connections. That should be very consistent on a daily basis. Okay. Yeah. So Matt, okay. So that's the question. There's another one. Lori, hi Lori. In your lessons, do you stick with the soccer business terms?
So I focus on soccer terms, I guess you would say. Like I found that this is the main thing that people want to learn, is like the terminology related. I also do a lot of like communication things with them. You know, like coaches need to speak in a particularly confident way if they're on the pitch, or if they're doing press conferences, these sorts of things. There's people who have to do presentations, so I do a lot of like presentation work and stuff. Business, I don't really do business. I do like professional English, like when they're in meetings and stuff like that, but I don't do business as such.
It's good. Yeah, and you didn't know what exactly you will teach until you actually start teaching them,
Oh
right?
yeah, there's
That's
that. I
what
have
you
no idea.
said. That's what you said in the first session or two. Like you were so off from where you want to be. I guess
Yeah,
that's a learning process too.
yeah, absolutely.
That's good. And yeah, I mean, just like you have this idea, you have this niche, and so many teachers just kind of get stuck there. They were like, oh, I need to get a clarity on who exactly they are, what exactly they want, how exactly I'm gonna help them, what materials I need to prepare. It's like everything should be like ready. And I think that's understandable because teachers, if you used to work in a classroom or teaching for company schools, right, you got this curriculum from them, then
Yeah,
you get everything ready before you enter the classroom.
everything's
But with
prepared
this,
for you.
yeah, and with this, your own business, you have nothing ready. Nothing is, I mean, nothing can be ready because you don't even know these people. You have to just
You
go
don't,
in
don't
and
know what you're
learn.
doing at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that can be a challenge. I can see that, and I do understand it. But unfortunately, this is the way to go. But it's not like you're starting from scratch. If you work with us, let's say in the 21 channel, we do provide a lot of templates and things to help you get you, but still not to the level you feel comfortable as comfortable as working for companies, schools, or classrooms. So yeah, let's answer one last question here from Jennifer. Hi Jennifer, how much does your knowledge of other languages help you in this niche? Any need for that? Thanks.
It helps me almost 0% because I'm terrible at other languages. I do speak French. I live in France, but I'm really bad at it. I make mistakes all the time. I'm a much better teacher than I am student. Um, I don't think you need other languages if you're doing something like this. There might be some industries or some niches where that's really useful, or if you're going to target like Spanish speakers, then maybe it's good to speak Spanish, right? My niche isn't like that. It's very broad and it's an international industry where English is the lingua franca. So yeah, I do that. I don't really deal with like low level students, like A1, A2. I don't really put out posts to advertise to them because what I teach would be too advanced for them. So most of my students start from around intermediate, and yeah, and like I said recently, a lot of them will actually be they'll be like C2, C1, C2, and they want to just sort of really get a lot more confident with it. But yeah, I don't really deal with like yeah beginners or anything like that.
Good. All right. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for the question, Jennifer. All right. We're at the top of our now. And I just want to thank you again, Matt, for your time and sharing your experience journey with us. And I do believe it has inspired many teachers, right? We talk about niche teaching, right? Just to summarize, you can you just go with what it is and make sure you can separate these signals and don't quit, right? Don't quit. I had a lower confidence than Matt probably at the beginning in his niche, but he made it work. Okay, just look do some market research and focus on that. And we also talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn has pros and cons, and has, I think it works for some niches, but not all the niches. And if you want to learn more about LinkedIn, about niche teaching, definitely check out our 21-day challenge. It's I can share the link with you guys. 21-day challenge here, and check it out. If you want to join us, feel free to join us. And also we have this webinar coming up this month on August 29th, and feel free to join the webinar and to learn more about LinkedIn and the niche teaching. And yep, thank you again, Matt, and thanks everyone for being here today, showing up and spending time with us. And I hope you got what you wanted, the inspiration and the motivation and the confidence, the faith, right, the hope, right, we needed to continue our career as a teacher. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Matt, and appreciate that.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep, thank you. And so don't forget to join us again next month. We're gonna have another interview for sure. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Have a good one. Bye bye, everyone.